Identical biracial teens faced denied boarding until their CEO mother's call grounded the flights. The terminal's atmosphere was thick with unease. 16-year-old twins, Luna and Maya Bennett, stood at gate D15, their matching navy blue rollers beside them, boarding passes clutched in their anxious hands. Passengers around them proceeded past the cheerful gate agent, who efficiently checked documents. However, when the sisters approached, her smile vanished, replaced by a stern look. "I apologize, but there appears to be a problem with your tickets," the agent announced, her voice loud enough for nearby travelers to notice. "That's not possible," Luna responded, her voice firm despite the nervousness she felt. "We checked in online, and our seats are confirmed." The agent's fingers tapped on her keyboard, avoiding eye contact with the girls. "The system is flagging your reservation. I'll need to see additional identification." Lyra exchanged a worried look with her sister. They had already shown their learner's permits, brand new in their wallets. Their 17th birthday was still 4 months away, but they had flown alone several times before. "Is there an issue?" A question came from behind them, a middle-aged white man in a casual suit, his boarding pass ready. "No problem at all," the agent replied with a sudden, bright smile. "Please, go ahead, Mr. Harrison." The businessman walked past, giving the twins a curious glance before disappearing down the jet bridge. "This is absurd," Lyra muttered, taking out her phone. "I'm calling Mom." The gate agent's expression flickered, subtle but noticeable. "That won't be necessary. I just need to complete the verification process," she added. But Lyra was already dialing, her thumb pressing the screen firmly. 3 rings, and then a deep, familiar voice answered. "Mom, we have a situation at the airport," she said, her voice calm but clear. "They're not letting us board. Yes, we have our IDs. Yes, the tickets are confirmed. No, they won't give us a reason." As Lyra spoke, the atmosphere in the terminal seemed to shift. Perhaps it was the confidence in her voice, or maybe it was the way several nearby passengers had stopped to watch. Whatever the reason, the gate agent's demeanor changed, her eyes glancing nervously towards her supervisor's office. What followed would send ripples through the airline industry, leaving thousands stranded, a corporate giant reeling, and the nation confronting uncomfortable truths that had been hidden in plain sight. 72 hours earlier, Evelyn Reed sat at her sleek glass desk on the 50th floor of the NovaTech Industries headquarters in downtown Seattle. Through the expansive windows, the city stretched out before her, a living map of the empire she had built from the ground up. At 52, Evelyn had achieved what many only dreamed of: founder and CEO of a Fortune 100 company with a net worth exceeding $4 billion. Yet, as she reviewed the quarterly reports on her desk, her thoughts drifted to her daughters. They were scheduled to fly and visit her that weekend, their first solo trip since she and their father had separated 6 months prior. The divorce wasn't finalized, but Evelyn had moved out of their suburban home and back to her Seattle roots, where NovaTech was headquartered. Her executive assistant, David, appeared in the doorway, his salt and pepper hair neatly combed. At 65, he had been with Evelyn since the company's earliest days, when they operated out of a small office with more vision than capital. "The board members are assembled in the conference room," he announced, a hint of tension in his voice. "And Mr. Sterling called again, for the 2nd time this week." Evelyn sighed, straightening her tailored blazer as she stood. Robert Sterling, CIO of Zenith Airlines, had been persistent for days about a potential collaboration. NovaTech's innovative AI-powered baggage screening system was transforming airport security, and Zenith wanted to be the first major airline to implement it nationwide. "Tell them I'll be right in," Evelyn replied, gathering her documents. "And David, schedule a call with Robert for tomorrow. 15 minutes, no more. I'm growing weary of his insistence." David nodded, making a note on his tablet. "And don't forget, the girls arrive Friday at 3 p.m. The car service has been arranged." A rare smile softened Evelyn's features. "Thank you. I want everything to be perfect." "It will be," David assured her, his own expression warming. He had watched the twins grow up through photos on Evelyn's desk and the occasional video call that interrupted their meetings. "They're going to adore the surprise you've planned." As Evelyn walked towards the conference room, her phone vibrated with a text from Vivian, her soon-to-be ex-wife. "Girls are packed and excited for the trip. Please remind them to call me when they land." Evelyn typed a quick reply. "Everything is set on my end." Vivian's response came moments later. "All good, though Maya is a bit anxious about flying without me. First time since everything changed." Evelyn frowned slightly. The separation had been particularly hard on Maya, always the more sensitive of the two. While Luna had inherited Evelyn's strategic mind and unwavering focus, Maya possessed a deep empathy and artistic flair that reminded her of Vivian in their early years, before success and its demands had created an insurmountable distance between them. Before she could reply, David reappeared. "They're waiting for you, Evelyn." With a nod, she pocketed her phone and entered the conference room, where 7 board members sat around a polished table. Charles Miller, the board's chairman, stood as Evelyn entered. "Evelyn, glad you could join us," Charles said, his tone implying that she was actually 5 minutes late. "We were just discussing the Zenith proposal." "I wasn't aware that was on today's agenda," Evelyn replied coolly, taking her seat at the head of the table. "It wasn't," confirmed Sarah Chen, the only other woman of color on the board and Evelyn's most trusted advisor. "But given recent developments, we thought it prudent to address it immediately." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "Recent developments?" Charles slid a tablet across the table. "Zenith is going public with their interest in our security system. Their PR team has already drafted a press release suggesting a partnership is imminent." "That's presumptuous," Evelyn said, skimming the document. "We haven't agreed to anything." "But we should," countered James Wilson, the board's most traditional member. At 70, he represented established wealth and conventional viewpoints. "Zenith is offering $25 million for exclusive rights, plus a share of the cost savings. It's a solid offer." "It's a starting point," Evelyn replied firmly. "And exclusivity would limit our market reach. The system is worth at least double that, and we should be licensing it to multiple carriers." "The system hasn't even completed its final validation phase," Sarah pointed out. "We're still addressing the bias concerns from the initial trials." Evelyn nodded gratefully at Sarah. The facial recognition aspect of the security system had shown concerning inconsistencies in its accuracy across different racial groups, an issue Evelyn had personally prioritized for immediate resolution. "Exactly," she said. "We're not moving forward with any partnerships until I'm confident that the system performs equally well for everyone." End of discussion. James leaned back in his chair, a look of mild annoyance on his face. "The discrepancies are minimal, Evelyn. Every system has some margin of error. Not when those margins of error disproportionately affect certain communities," Evelyn replied, her voice gaining a sharper tone. "My daughters would be 20 times more likely to be flagged for additional screening than your granddaughters, James. That's unacceptable." A tense silence filled the room. Everyone present knew Evelyn's background. Raised by a single mother in a diverse neighborhood, scholarship to Stanford, the coding prodigy who had launched her first successful tech venture at 20. Her path to this boardroom had been anything but typical. "No one is suggesting we ignore the issue," Charles said carefully. "But Robert Sterling is pressing for an answer, and Zenith's influence could significantly accelerate our timeline." Evelyn stood, buttoning her jacket. "My answer to Robert remains the same. We're not ready, and I won't compromise on this. The system launches when it's fair for everyone, not a day sooner." As the meeting concluded, Evelyn returned to her office, where David waited with a fresh cup of herbal tea and a knowing look. "They pushed the Zenith deal again?" he asked, though it wasn't really a question. "James is convinced we're leaving money on the table." Evelyn sighed, accepting the tea gratefully. "Maybe we are, but I remember too well what it's like to be singled out, to be treated as inherently suspicious." David nodded. He had been with Evelyn long enough to know the stories. How she had been followed in stores as a teenager, asked to empty her bag. How even now, despite her wealth and position, she was sometimes mistaken for the cleaning staff in her own building when dressed casually. "The girls are fortunate to have you fighting these battles," he said softly. "So they won't have to." Evelyn gazed out at the Seattle skyline, her reflection superimposed over the city she had once viewed from the ground, looking up, dreaming of heights few believed she could reach. "That's the hope," she murmured. "But the world hasn't changed as much as we'd like to think." Little did she know how prophetic those words would soon prove to be. In the Bennett family's elegant Queen Anne home in Seattle, Luna stood before her closet, meticulously choosing outfits for her weekend trip to Chicago. Her twin sister, Maya, sat on the bed, sketching in her well-worn notebook, occasionally looking up to offer her opinion. "You're overthinking this," Maya said, her pencil moving swiftly across the page. "It's just Mom." "It's not just Mom," Luna replied, holding up a navy peacoat. "It's Mom's world. NovaTech headquarters, possible meetings with her team. We need to look like we belong." Maya rolled her eyes but couldn't help but smile. "We're her daughters. We automatically belong." Their mother appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame. At 48, Vivian Bennett maintained the sophisticated grace that had first captivated Evelyn at a tech conference 25 years earlier. Back then, she had been a promising environmental advocate, and Evelyn had been an ambitious entrepreneur with a groundbreaking clean energy platform. Their whirlwind romance had led to marriage, and a year later, the birth of the twins. "Both of you belong anywhere you choose to be," Vivian stated firmly, "with or without your mother's name." Luna and Maya exchanged a glance. Their mother rarely criticized Evelyn directly, but the subtle jabs had increased since the separation. "We know, Mom," Luna replied diplomatically. "I just want to make a good impression on her colleagues." Vivian stepped into the room, straightening a framed photo of the girls at their Sweet 16 party, the last one they had celebrated as a complete family. "You'll impress them with your intelligence, not your attire," she said. "Though that peacoat is a nice choice." Maya closed her sketchbook and stretched. "What time is Aunt Clara coming to take you to the botanical gardens tomorrow?" 10, Vivian replied. "Are you sure you two don't want to join us before your flight? A little pre-travel relaxation." "We still have packing to finish," Luna said, folding the peacoat carefully. "And I want to review my presentation ideas for Mom's development team." Vivian sighed. "Always working so much like your mother." "Is that a compliment or a criticism?" Maya asked, her voice light but her eyes observant. Vivian managed a smile. "Perhaps both. Just remember, this is supposed to be a family visit, not a business shadowing opportunity." After their mother left, Maya moved to her own closet, pulling out a vibrant green dress with an abstract pattern she had designed. "Do you think she's changed now?" she asked quietly. "Since moving back to Seattle?" Luna paused, considering the question. "I don't know. Our video calls seem normal, but it's not the same," Maya finished. "She's always been busy, but now there's this distance that isn't just physical. She's under a lot of pressure with the new security system," Luna reasoned. "You know how important it is to her that they get it right." Maya nodded. Their mother had explained the technology to them during one of their calls, how it used artificial intelligence to speed up the screening process, potentially eliminating the need for passengers to remove belts, tablets, and liquids. The system was sophisticated enough to identify threats while being minimally intrusive, promising to revolutionize the often frustrating airport experience. "I just hope she remembers we're coming to see her, not NovaTech Industries," Maya said, adding the green dress to her suitcase. "Of course she does," Luna assured her. "David said she's planned a surprise." Maya's face brightened at this. Their mother's executive assistant had always had a soft spot for the twins, sending them birthday cards and holiday gifts over the years, even passing along little updates about their mother when she was too engrossed in work to reach out herself. "A good surprise?" Maya asked, her artistic imagination already conjuring possibilities. "He wouldn't say," Luna replied, "but apparently she's been planning it for weeks." The twins continued packing in comfortable silence, each lost in her own thoughts about the weekend ahead. Neither could have imagined how drastically different the reality would be from their expectations. The following afternoon, Vivian hugged her daughters tightly at the front door. "Call me when you land," she reminded them. "And if anything doesn't feel right, anything at all, you come straight home." "Mom, we'll be fine," Luna assured her. "We have the car service arranged, hotel confirmation, everything. And Mom said she'd meet us at the airport herself," Maya added. Vivian nodded, tucking a stray strand of hair behind Maya's ear. "I know. I miss you already." The twins exchanged another glance. Since the separation, their mother's protective instincts had intensified. They understood why. For nearly 20 years, they had been a unit, the three of them supporting each other while Evelyn built her company, often from afar. "It's just 3 days," Luna reminded her gently. "We'll be back Sunday night. And we'll bring you something from Chicago," Maya promised, always the peacemaker. As the rideshare pulled away from the curb, the twins waved until their mother's figure disappeared in the distance. The drive to SeaTac Airport was filled with Maya's enthusiastic chatter about the Chicago art museums she hoped to visit, and Luna's more pragmatic review of their travel plans. At the terminal, they moved efficiently through the check-in process. Their frequent travels with their parents over the years had made them comfortable navigating airports, and soon they were seated at the gate, boarding passes safely stored on their phones. "I'm going to grab a water," Luna announced, standing up. "Want anything?" "Sparkling water, please," Maya replied, already taking out her sketchbook. "I want to work on this before we board." As Luna walked away, Maya became engrossed in her drawing, imagining her reunion with her mother, her tall figure waiting at the arrival gate, arms open wide. The truth was, despite her outward enthusiasm, she was nervous. The last time they had seen their mother in person, she and their father had still been trying to conceal the strain in their marriage. Now those pretenses were gone, and Maya wasn't sure what to expect from this new version of their family dynamic. Her concentration was broken by a voice over the intercom. "Pre-boarding will begin shortly for Flight 2147 to Chicago O'Hare. We invite passengers needing special assistance or traveling with young children to begin lining up at this time." Maya texted Luna. "They're starting to board. Where are you?" The reply came quickly. "Long line. On my way. Save our place." Gathering her things, Maya moved closer to the boarding area, noting with relief that they still had plenty of time. Around her, business travelers tapped on laptops, families managed excited children, and solo travelers adjusted their backpacks. A young white woman in a pilot's uniform caught her eye, nodding politely as she passed. She couldn't have been much older than the twins, perhaps in her early 20s. Her youthful face contrasted with the authority of her uniform. "First time flying SkyLink?" she asked, noticing Maya watching her. "No, we've flown with you before," Maya replied. Are you flying our plane?" She laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Not today. I'm still a first officer training on this route, just observing. I'm Olivia, by the way." "Maya," she replied, shaking Olivia's offered hand. "My sister Luna and I are heading to Chicago to visit our mom." "Chicago's a great city," Olivia said. "Born and raised there myself before moving west for flight school." Before they could continue their conversation, Luna appeared, carefully carrying 2 cups. "Sorry that took so long," she said, handing one to Maya. The barista was new. Olivia excused herself with a friendly wave, heading towards the jet bridge where the gate staff were preparing for boarding. "Making friends already?" Luna teased, taking a sip of her water. "Just being polite," Maya replied, feeling a faint blush warm her cheeks. "She's one of the pilots or co-pilots, whatever they're called." Luna raised an eyebrow but said nothing more. As the boarding announcement came over the intercom, They gathered their belongings and joined the line, presenting their boarding passes when their group was called. And that was when everything changed. The gate agent, a middle-aged woman with neatly styled brown hair and a name tag reading Brenda, scanned Luna's boarding pass first. The scanner emitted a sharp beep, and Brenda's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. "May I see your ID, please?" she asked, her tone professional but cool. Luna presented her learner's permit, which Brenda scrutinized longer than seemed necessary, before reluctantly scanning it through. When Maya presented her boarding pass, the same beep sounded. "ID, please," Brenda repeated, her voice now carrying a hint of suspicion. After examining Maya's permit with the same unwarranted thoroughness, Brenda handed it back with barely concealed reluctance. "You two are traveling together?" "Yes, we're sisters," Luna explained, though it should have been obvious given their identical last names and striking resemblance. "Twins," Maya added with a friendly smile that wasn't returned. Brenda pressed a button on her console, and moments later, a security officer appeared beside her. They conferred in hushed tones, the officer occasionally glancing at the twins. "Is there a problem?" Luna asked, her confidence beginning to waver as other passengers moved past them down the jet bridge. "We need to verify your documentation," the security officer stated. "Please step aside." "But we've already shown our IDs," Maya protested. "And we've checked in. Our seats are confirmed." Brenda's lips thinned. "The system has flagged your reservation for additional verification. This is standard procedure." "Standard for whom?" Luna challenged, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. Around them, other passengers, most of them white, continued boarding without issue. "If you'll just come with me," the security officer said, gesturing to a nearby seating area. Maya felt a familiar sinking feeling in her stomach, the same one she had experienced in upscale boutiques when security followed them despite their trendy clothes, or when teachers expressed surprise at their insightful comments, as if eloquence was unexpected from girls who looked like them. "This is ridiculous," she murmured, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling Mom." The air in the terminal crackled with tension. 16-year-old twins Luna and Maya Bennett stood at gate D15, their matching navy blue rollers beside them, boarding passes clutched in trembling hands. Around them, passengers filed past the smiling gate agent who checked documents with practiced efficiency. But when the twins stepped forward, her smile hardened into something else entirely. "I'm sorry, but there seems to be an issue with your tickets," the agent said, her voice carrying just enough for nearby passengers to turn their heads. "That's impossible," Luna replied, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. "We checked in online. Our seats are confirmed." The agent's fingers clacked against her keyboard, her eyes never meeting the girl's. "The system is flagging your reservation. I'll need to see additional identification." Maya exchanged a glance with her sister. They had already presented their learner's permits, brand new and gleaming in their wallets. Their 17th birthday was still 4 months away, but they'd flown alone before. Many times, in fact. "Is there a problem?" The question came from behind them, a middle-aged white man in a casual suit, his own boarding pass at the ready. "No problem at all," the agent replied with a sudden smile. "Go right ahead, Mr. Harrison." The businessman slipped past, casting a curious glance at the twins before disappearing down the jet bridge. "This is ridiculous," Maya murmured, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling Mom." The gate agent's expression flickered, subtle but unmistakable. "That won't be necessary. I just need to complete the verification process." But Maya was already dialing, her thumb tapping the screen with purpose. 3 rings. Then a deep, familiar voice answered. "Mom, we have a situation at the airport," she said, her voice calm but carrying. "They're refusing to let us board. Yes, we have our IDs. Yes, the tickets are confirmed. No, they won't give us a reason." As Maya spoke, something shifted in the terminal. Perhaps it was the confidence in her voice, Or maybe it was the way several nearby passengers had stopped to observe the unfolding scene. Whatever the cause, the gate agent's demeanor changed, her eyes darting nervously to her supervisor's office. "Evelyn Reed," Maya was saying into the phone, her voice now carrying an unmistakable edge of her mother's authority. "Yes, my mother would like to speak with a supervisor on duty." The security officer's posture stiffened at the mention of the name, his eyes meeting Brenda's in a silent exchange of recognition. Evelyn Reed wasn't just any concerned parent. She was the billionaire CEO whose company was revolutionizing airport security systems. Brenda's smile returned, brittle and forced. "There must have been a misunderstanding. Let me recheck your boarding passes." But Maya was already handing her phone to the security officer, her expression resolute. "My mother would like to speak with you." The officer hesitated before accepting the phone, moving several steps away as he spoke in hushed tones. Meanwhile, Brenda suddenly discovered that the twins' boarding passes were, in fact, perfectly valid. "You're all set," she announced with artificial brightness. "Sorry for the confusion. Enjoy your flight." Luna fixed her with a level gaze. What exactly was the issue? "Just a system error," Brenda replied, avoiding eye contact. "These things happen to everyone?" Luna pressed. "Or just certain passengers?" Before Brenda could respond, the security officer returned with Maya's phone, his demeanor notably more deferential. "You're cleared to board," he said, stepping aside to clear their path. "Again, we apologize for the inconvenience." As they finally moved down the jet bridge, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from their mother. "On my way to the airport now. We need to talk about what just happened. Love you both." Aboard the aircraft, they found their seats in the premium cabin, another perk of their mother's status. As they settled in, the young pilot Maya had met earlier passed through the cabin on her pre-flight inspection. She paused, her expression concerned. "Everything okay?" she asked quietly. There seemed to be some commotion at the gate. "Just a system error," Maya replied, unable to keep the skepticism from her voice. Olivia nodded, understanding evident in her eyes. "Those happen more often than they should, and rarely by accident. If you need anything during the flight, ask for me, Olivia Hayes." As she continued her inspection, Luna leaned towards her sister. "What do you think she meant by rarely by accident?" Maya shrugged, though her mind was already connecting dots. "I don't know, but I think Mom might." The flight to Chicago passed without further incident, but the twins remained subdued, processing what had happened. It wasn't their first experience with prejudice, but there was something particularly unsettling about being singled out in such a public setting, treated as suspicious despite having done everything by the book. More troubling was the sudden change in attitude once their mother's name entered the equation. The respect and courtesy that should have been theirs by default had only materialized when attached to power and privilege. It was a lesson they had learned many times before, but never quite so starkly. As the plane began its descent into O'Hare International Airport, Maya gazed out at the Chicago skyline, emerging through scattered clouds. The city where their mother had rebuilt her life after the separation, where she was continuing to build the technology empire that had made her one of the most influential biracial women in America. "I think I understand now," she said softly. "Understand what?" Luna asked, looking up from the book she had been pretending to read. "Why this trip was so important to her," Maya replied. "Why she wants us to see her world." Luna considered this. "Because of NovaTech? Because of what NovaTech represents," Maya corrected. "What she's built, the barriers she's broken." The plane touched down with a gentle bump, taxiing toward the terminal where, unbeknownst to the twins, events were already in motion that would transform their weekend visit into something far more consequential than any of them could have anticipated. Meanwhile, in the executive offices of Zenith Airlines, located in a gleaming tower adjacent to O'Hare, CEO Robert Sterling was receiving some unwelcome news. "What do you mean?" "They were Reed's daughters," he demanded, glaring at his head of security operations. How was that not flagged in the system? Marcus Bell, a former law enforcement officer with a perpetually stern expression, shifted uncomfortably. The reservation was under the mother's maiden name, Vivian Hayes. She retained her professional name after marriage. The connection wasn't made until the girls mentioned their mother. Robert paced behind his desk, his silver-streaked hair catching the afternoon light. At 60, he had spent 35 years in the airline industry, fighting his way up from ticket agent to chief executive through a combination of relentless drive and strategic alliances. He had transformed Zenith from a regional carrier with potential into one of the nation's leading airlines. But the last few years had seen profit margins squeezed as competition intensified and customer satisfaction declined. NovaTech's security system represented a potential breakthrough, a way to differentiate Zenith from its competitors while reducing operational expenses. Robert had been aggressively pursuing the partnership, but Evelyn Reed's insistence on further testing had stalled negotiations. "This is a PR disaster waiting to happen," Robert muttered. "Reed has been looking for excuses to delay our deal. If she finds out her precious daughters were subjected to additional screening." "It was standard protocol," Marcus insisted. "The system flagged them for verification." Robert fixed him with a withering look. "The system you implemented flagged 2 teenage girls with valid identification and confirmed reservations. The same system that's repeatedly been criticized for its racial biases. The same issues Reed is concerned about with her own technology." Marcus's jaw tightened. "We've made improvements." "Clearly not enough," Robert snapped. "Get me everything on this incident. Witness statements, security footage, the exact alert that triggered the screening, and find out who spoke to Reed on the phone." As Marcus hurried to comply, Robert's assistant appeared with an urgent expression. "Sir, Evelyn Reed is on line 1. She's demanding to speak with you immediately." Robert closed his eyes briefly, composing himself before picking up the phone. "Evelyn, what a pleasant surprise. I was just thinking about our conversation." "Spare me the pleasantries, Robert," Evelyn interrupted, her voice cold with controlled fury. "I'm at O'Hare right now, meeting my daughters, who were just subjected to discriminatory treatment by your staff." "There's been a misunderstanding," Robert began. "The only misunderstanding," Evelyn cut in, "is your company's belief that this kind of treatment is acceptable. My daughters were humiliated, delayed, and treated like criminals until my name was mentioned. Suddenly, miraculously, the system error resolved itself." Robert winced. It was exactly as he had feared. "I assure you, this isn't our policy. If there was an error in judgment—" "This wasn't an error in judgment," Evelyn stated flatly. "This was your algorithm doing exactly what it was designed to do, disproportionately flagging passengers of color for random screening. The same issues I've been raising about automated systems for years." There was a dangerous pause before Evelyn continued, her voice now dangerously quiet. "I want a full investigation. I want the findings made public, and I want accountability. Not just a corporate apology and sensitivity training." "Of course," Robert agreed quickly. "We take this very seriously. I'll personally oversee—" "One more thing," Evelyn added. "Our meeting next week about the security system partnership. Consider it canceled indefinitely. I won't entrust my technology to a company that can't recognize its own biases." The line went dead before Robert could respond. He slowly replaced the receiver, a cold knot of dread forming in his stomach. The Reed partnership had been projected to increase Zenith's value by at least 10%. The board had been counting on it to offset 2 consecutive quarters of declining revenue. Robert's assistant hovered in the doorway. "Sir, the chairman is asking for an update on the NovaTech negotiations." "Tell him they've been delayed," Robert replied grimly. "And get me our PR team immediately." What Robert didn't know, couldn't know, was that the situation was about to escalate far beyond a private dispute between executives. The incident with the Bennett twins was about to become very public indeed. Evelyn Reed stood at the arrival gate, her imposing 6'1" frame drawing glances from passing travelers. Despite her casual attire, jeans and a simple gray sweater, There was no mistaking the aura of authority that surrounded her. When she spotted her daughters emerging from the jet bridge, her stern expression softened into one of genuine warmth. "Mom!" Maya called, quickening her pace. She reached her first, wrapping her arms around Evelyn's torso in a tight hug that momentarily surprised her. "Easy there," she chuckled, returning the embrace before extending an arm to include Luna, who approached with more reserve but equal affection. For a moment, they stood together, a family unit briefly reunited, but the circumstances of their arrival couldn't be ignored for long. "Let's get your bags," Evelyn suggested, her arms still around Maya's shoulders as they began walking. "We just have carry-ons," Luna informed her, her practical nature asserting itself even in emotional moments. Evelyn nodded, guiding them toward the exit. "Good. David arranged for a car. It's waiting outside." As they walked through the terminal, Evelyn observed the way her daughters carried themselves, heads held high, shoulders back, projecting the confidence she had always instilled in them. Yet, she also noticed the tension in Luna's jaw, the slight furrow between Maya's brows that appeared when she was processing complex emotions. They were nearing the exit when a voice called out behind them, "Ms. Reed?" They turned to see a young woman in a pilot's uniform approaching, her expression earnest. "Olivia," Maya said, recognition softening her features. "This is our mom." "Ma'am, I'm First Officer Olivia Hayes," the young pilot said, extending her hand to Evelyn. "I witnessed what happened at the boarding gate in Boston. I wanted to apologize on behalf of SkyLink Airlines." Evelyn shook the offered hand, studying Olivia with interest. "I appreciate that, Ms. Hayes, but I'm not sure an apology from you is what's needed here." Olivia nodded, her blue eyes serious. "I understand, ma'am. That's actually why I wanted to speak with you. What happened wasn't an isolated incident. It's systematic." Evelyn's attention sharpened. "Go on." "I've been with SkyLink for almost 3 years," Olivia explained. "In that time, I've observed consistent patterns in our security screening process. Certain passengers are flagged for additional screening at rates that can't be explained by random selection." "You mean black and brown passengers?" Luna stated directly. Olivia met her gaze squarely. "Yes, along with passengers with certain ethnic-sounding names or traveling from specific regions. The algorithm was implemented 2 years ago as part of a security enhancement initiative." "And you've reported this?" Evelyn asked, though she suspected the answer. "Multiple times," Olivia confirmed. "To supervisors, to HR, even directly to operations management. The response is always the same. The system is working as designed, and any disparities are statistically insignificant." "But they're not," Evelyn said. It wasn't a question. "No, ma'am," Olivia agreed. "I've been documenting incidents for months, building a case. When I saw what happened with your daughters, I recognized the pattern immediately." Evelyn considered the young pilot thoughtfully. "That's a risky position to take, Ms. Hayes, speaking out against your employer." Olivia straightened slightly. "My grandmother always said that doing what's right is rarely the easy path. She was a flight attendant for 35 years. She'd be ashamed if I stayed silent about discriminatory practices, no matter who signs my paycheck." "I like her," Maya declared with the directness that often emerged when her sense of fairness was triggered. Evelyn couldn't suppress a small smile at her daughter's endorsement. "Miss Hayes, I'd be interested in seeing your documentation. Would you be willing to share it?" "That's why I approached you, ma'am," Olivia replied, producing a business card. "My personal contact information. I can send you everything I've gathered." Evelyn accepted the card, tucking it into her wallet. "I'll be in touch. And Ms. Hayes, thank you for your integrity. It's unfortunately rare in corporate America these days." As Olivia returned to her duties, the Bennett family continued to their waiting car, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows. Once settled inside with privacy screens raised, Evelyn turned to her daughters. "Tell me everything," she said, "from the beginning." The twins recounted their experience at the gate, The initial flagging of their boarding passes, the prolonged examination of their valid IDs, the abrupt change in treatment once Evelyn's name was mentioned. It was so obvious, Luna concluded, her analytical mind already processing the implications. They didn't see us as legitimate passengers until we were connected to power and privilege. And it wasn't just us, Maya added. When we were pulled aside, I noticed 3 other black and brown passengers getting similar treatment, but the white passengers walked right through, even when the scanner made the same beeping sound. Evelyn listened intently, her expression growing increasingly troubled. "I'm so sorry you experienced that," she said finally. "It's exactly the kind of algorithmic bias I've been fighting against in our own systems." "Is that why you've been delaying the partnership with Zenith?" Luna asked perceptively. "Because of concerns about bias." Evelyn nodded, impressed as always by her daughter's insight. "Our facial recognition and behavioral analysis technology is powerful, but with that power comes responsibility. Early tests showed unacceptable disparities in accuracy across racial lines. Like mistaking one person of color for another, Maya suggested. "Among other issues," Evelyn confirmed. "I've insisted on addressing these problems before deployment, despite pressure from the board and potential partners like Zenith to accelerate the timeline." The sedan glided through Chicago traffic as the family discussion continued, none of them aware of the social media storm that was beginning to brew. A passenger who had witnessed the twins' treatment at Logan Airport had posted about the incident, mentioning the Bennett name and tagging SkyLink Airlines. The post was gaining traction, with commenters sharing similar experiences and journalists beginning to take notice. By the time they reached the downtown hotel where Evelyn had reserved the penthouse suite, the story was trending on multiple platforms. David called as they were checking in, his voice unusually tense. "Evelyn, have you seen the news? The incident with the girls has gone viral." Evelyn frowned, guiding her daughters toward the private elevator. "How viral?" "National outlets are picking it up," David replied. "Hashtags are trending. SkyLink stock is already down 4 points, and Robert Sterling has called 9 times in the last hour." "Let him wait," Evelyn said firmly. "The girls and I need to settle in. We'll deal with the media response tomorrow." As they rode the elevator to the top floor, Maya was checking her phone, her eyes widening. "Mom, people are calling for a boycott of SkyLink. There are thousands of tweets about us." "Not about us," Evelyn corrected gently. "About what happened to you. About a systemic problem that's finally getting the attention it deserves." The elevator doors opened directly into the suite, an expansive space with panoramic views of Lake Michigan and the Chicago skyline. Under different circumstances, the twins might have been awestruck by the luxury surrounding them. Instead, they were grappling with their unexpected role at the center of a national conversation. "What happens now?" Luna asked, setting down her bag and turning to her mother. Evelyn's phone buzzed again, the 5th call from Robert Sterling in the past 30 minutes. With a decisive gesture, she silenced it and focused on her daughters. "Now," she said, "we decide what story we want to tell. Your story and your words." And in that moment, as the Bennett family stood united in the face of unwanted publicity and corporate damage control, the real impact of what had occurred at Gate D15 began to take shape. A catalyst for change that would reach far beyond a single airline or security system. If you're following this story and connecting with the Bennett family's experience, we encourage you to engage. Subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories and perspectives contribute to this vital discussion about bias and accountability in our systems. In the elegant confines of the penthouse suite, the Bennett family gathered around the dining table, laptops open and phones within reach. Evelyn had ordered room service, her daughter's favorite comfort foods from their childhood visits to Chicago, including deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's and carrot cake from Eli's Cheesecake. "Before we decide on next steps," Evelyn said, her tone shifting from concerned mother to strategic CEO, "I want you both to understand that you have choices. This attention wasn't something you sought, and you don't have to engage with it if you don't want to." Maya glanced at her sister, their unspoken communication honed by 16 years of shared life. Luna gave a subtle nod, and Maya turned back to their mother. "We want to speak out," she said firmly. "What happened to us happens to people without famous parents every day. The difference is, no one listens to them." Luna added, "This is an opportunity to shed light on a systemic problem, using the privilege we have through you. It would be wrong not to use it." Evelyn studied her daughters with a mixture of pride and concern. Vivian had raised them with a strong sense of social justice during Evelyn's frequent absences building NovaTech. Sometimes she wondered if they would have been better off with less wealth and more of her presence. But moments like this reassured her that they were becoming the kind of people she had always hoped they would be. "All right," she agreed, "but we do this thoughtfully, not reactively. Zenith's PR team will be working overtime to control the narrative. They'll emphasize that this was an isolated incident, blame it on a rogue employee or a technical glitch. But we know it wasn't," Luna countered. "We have our experience, and now Olivia's evidence of a pattern." Evelyn nodded, pulling out the pilot's business card. "I'll contact her tonight. If her documentation is as comprehensive as she suggests, it could be powerful leverage." As Evelyn drafted an email to Olivia, Maya's phone chimed with an incoming call from their mother. She answered immediately, putting it on speaker. "Mom, you're on speaker with me, Luna, and Mom," she announced. "Are you all okay?" Vivian's voice was tight with worry. "The news is everywhere. I've had reporters calling the house." "We're fine, Mom," Luna assured her, "just figuring out how to respond." "Evelyn," Vivian said, addressing her estranged wife directly, "I hope you're not planning to use our daughters as pawns in your corporate chess game with Zenith." Evelyn sighed, the familiar tension between them resurfacing despite her best efforts. "They're not pawns, Vivian. They're bright, capable young women who want to address an injustice they experienced firsthand." "They're 16, Vivian reminded her sharply, "and this kind of public exposure can have consequences you haven't considered." "We're almost 17, Maya interjected, "and we understand the implications. This isn't Mom pushing us, it's our decision." There was a pause on the line before Vivian spoke again, her voice softer. "I just worry about you both. This kind of attention can be overwhelming." "We know, Mom," Luna said, "but some things are worth being uncomfortable for." After reassuring Vivian that they would be careful and keep her updated, the call ended. Evelyn looked at her daughters with renewed appreciation for their maturity and conviction. "Your mother raises valid concerns," she acknowledged. "Public scrutiny can be intense, and Zenith has powerful allies. There may be attempts to discredit your account or even attack your character." "Let them try," Luna said with quiet determination. "We have nothing to hide." Evelyn's phone buzzed with an email notification. Olivia Hayes had responded already, attaching several files and offering to meet in person to discuss her findings. "She sent everything," Evelyn confirmed, skimming the attachments. "Statistical analyses, incident reports, internal communications. This is exactly what we need." As they reviewed Olivia's documentation, a clear pattern emerged. SkyLink's security algorithm was indeed disproportionately flagging passengers of color, with Black women being the most frequently targeted demographic for random additional screening. Moreover, Olivia had documented instances where security personnel overrode the system to let white passengers proceed even when flagged, while enforcing every alert for passengers of color. "This is worse than I thought," Evelyn murmured, her expression darkening as she examined a particularly damning chart showing discrepancy rates by race and gender. "What's our next move?" Maya asked, her artistic sensibilities already envisioning how this data could be visualized for maximum impact. Evelyn considered the question carefully. "We need to shape the narrative before Zenith does. A joint statement, perhaps, accompanied by a select portion of this data, just enough to establish that this wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a documented pattern. And we should involve Olivia somehow. Her willingness to speak out adds credibility to our claims," Luna suggested. That's risky for her, Evelyn pointed out. She could lose her job. She knows that? Maya said with certainty. She approached us anyway. I think we owe it to her to at least offer the opportunity. As they strategized into the evening, crafting a statement that was both factual and compelling, Evelyn received a text from James Wilson, the conservative board member who had been pushing hardest for the Zenith partnership. The board is calling an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. Your public feud with Sterling is causing investor concern. We need to discuss damage control. Evelyn showed the message to her daughters. The board is worried about stock prices, not ethical considerations. Will they try to force the Zenith deal through anyway? Luna asked quickly, grasping the political dynamics at play. They might, Evelyn admitted. I have controlling interest, but significant opposition could complicate matters, especially if they frame this as a personal vendetta rather than a principled stand. Maya frowned. That's not fair. This is exactly why you've been cautious about the security system, to prevent the kind of bias we experienced. Business isn't always fair, Evelyn replied, a hint of weariness creeping into her voice. I've spent my career navigating spaces where people who look like us are often seen as threats to the status quo rather than valuable contributors. Her phone rang again. Robert Sterling's 10th call of the evening. This time, Evelyn answered, putting it on speaker so her daughters could hear. Robert, she said coolly. I assume you've seen the news? Evelyn, we need to de-escalate this situation, Robert replied, his usually confident voice strained. The incident with your daughters was regrettable, but blowing it up in the media helps no one. It helps every passenger who's been subjected to discriminatory treatment by your airline, Evelyn countered. And don't pretend this was an isolated incident. We have documentation proving otherwise. There was a brief silence before Robert continued, his tone shifting from conciliatory to threatening. Think carefully about your next move, Evelyn. Zenith has partnerships with every major technology company in the country. If you turn this into a public battle, it won't just be our deal that suffers. Evelyn's expression hardened. Are you threatening me, Robert? I'm advising you as a fellow CEO, Robert replied smoothly. Corporate America protects its own. Push too hard on this, and you'll find doors closing for NovaTech that were previously wide open. The twins exchanged alarmed glances, but their mother remained unruffled. Here's what's going to happen, Evelyn stated, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had made her a formidable business leader. Tomorrow, my daughters will share their experience publicly, along with evidence of the systemic bias in your screening processes. Simultaneously, I'll be announcing that NovaTech is developing a new set of industry standards for ethical AI in security systems, with built-in protections against algorithmic discrimination. You're making a mistake, Evelyn, Robert warned. No, Robert, Evelyn replied firmly. The mistake was thinking that profit margins justified perpetuating a system that dehumanizes people who look like my daughters. Good night. As she ended the call, Evelyn turned to find both twins watching her with expressions of mingled concern and admiration. That was intense, Maya said quietly. Will he really try to turn other companies against NovaTech? Evelyn shrugged. He might. Robert has influence, and corporate solidarity is real, especially when challenges to the status quo are involved. But we have something more powerful on our side. What's that? Luna asked. The truth, Evelyn replied simply. And perfect timing. The world is finally ready to acknowledge these systemic problems in a way it wasn't even 5 years ago. As they returned to crafting their statement, none of them could have predicted just how right Evelyn was, or how dramatically events would unfold over the next 24 hours. In the Zenith Airlines corporate headquarters, Robert Sterling was facing his own crisis. The boardroom was filled with tense executives, many of whom had been called back from their Friday evening plans as the social media firestorm intensified. Our stock is down 20 points and falling, reported the CFO, her expression grim. Major institutional investors are calling for explanations. We've had over 12,000 reservation cancellations since the story broke 4 hours ago. "What about our partnership announcement scheduled for next week?" Robert asked, loosening his tie as the pressure mounted. The marketing director winced. "Aerotech Industries has asked to postpone our joint press conference, and Global Sure Insurance is re-evaluating our alignment with Zenith's brand values, according to their CEO." Robert slammed his hand on the table. "This is absurd. One incident with a couple of teenagers, and suddenly we're corporate pariahs." "It's not just one incident," the head of legal affairs noted quietly. "Social media is flooded with similar accounts from other passengers. Journalists are connecting the dots, highlighting a pattern." "What about the Reed documentation?" Robert demanded. "How solid is it?" Marcus Bell, the security operations head who had implemented the flagging algorithm, shifted uncomfortably. "If it's what I suspect, it could be very damaging. We've had internal discussions about discrepancy rates in our screening protocols." "Discussions that were supposed to remain internal," Robert snapped. "We have a bigger problem," the legal director interjected. "We've just received the word that the Department of Transportation is opening an investigation into our screening practices, and several civil rights organizations are preparing class action lawsuits." The room fell silent as the full implications sank in. Finally, the PR director spoke up. "We need to get ahead of this, issue a sincere apology, announce an immediate review of all security protocols, and reach out to Evelyn Reed directly to find common ground." Robert laughed bitterly. "Reed isn't interested in common ground. She's using this to kill our partnership and promote her own security system as the ethical alternative." "Then we need to change her mind," the PR director insisted. "Offer something she can't refuse. A joint initiative, perhaps, positioning Zenith and NovaTech as industry leaders working together to eliminate bias in automated systems." For the first time that evening, Robert's expression shifted from anger to consideration. "That might work. Reed's always been passionate about mentorship and creating opportunities for underrepresented groups in tech. What if we established a joint scholarship fund? Make a significant financial commitment to training the next generation of diverse tech leaders." The executives exchanged speculative glances, a flicker of hope appearing for the first time since the crisis began. "It would have to be substantial," the CFO warned, "and genuine. Reed will see through any half measures or PR stunts." $25 million, Robert decided. The same amount we were offering for exclusive rights to her security system, but instead, we use it to fund educational opportunities in her name. As the Zenith team began developing their counterproposal across town, Olivia Hayes was meeting with the Bennett family in their hotel suite, bringing additional evidence that would prove crucial in the days ahead. Almost immediately, frontline employees began reporting concerns about potential bias. Those reports were systematically dismissed or buried. She pulled up an internal memo. "This is particularly damning. It shows that Zenith's own data scientists identified the disparities and recommended modifications to the system. Those recommendations were rejected due to cost considerations and operational impact." Evelyn studied the document carefully. "They knowingly continued using a system they knew was discriminatory. That changes everything." "How so?" Luna asked. "Intent," Evelyn explained. "It's one thing to have an imperfect system and be unaware of its flaws. It's another entirely to recognize those flaws and choose to ignore them for financial reasons." Olivia nodded grimly. "That's exactly why I've been documenting everything. This isn't an accident or oversight. It's a deliberate choice to prioritize profit over people." As they continued reviewing the evidence, Maya noticed something concerning in Olivia's demeanor. "You're risking a lot by sharing this with us," she observed. "Are you sure you're prepared for the consequences?" Olivia met her gaze steadily. "My great-grandfather came to this country from Nigeria with very little. He faced blatant racism but persevered until he built a successful business. My mother worked her way up from a flight attendant to a senior manager at SkyLink, facing prejudice at every promotion because of her background." She paused, her conviction evident in her voice. "They taught me that meaningful change requires those with privilege to stand in solidarity with those who have less. As a white passing Latina woman in aviation, I have privileges that many of my colleagues of color do not. If I'm not willing to leverage that privilege to challenge injustice, I don't deserve this uniform." Maya's expression softened with newfound respect. "Your family sounds incredible." "They are," Olivia agreed with a small smile. "And they'll support me no matter what happens with SkyLink. That gives me the courage to do what's right." The evening stretched into the early hours of the morning as they prepared the statement they would release the following day. The twins drafted their account, powerful in its straightforwardness and specific details. Evelyn coordinated with NovaTech's PR team, who were simultaneously preparing announcements about the new Ethical AI Standards Initiative. Olivia organized her evidence into clear, compelling exhibits that would be difficult to dismiss or explain away. By dawn, they had crafted a comprehensive response that would not only address the incident at Logan Airport, but challenge the entire industry to confront its systemic biases. As they finally prepared for a few hours of rest, Evelyn received an unexpected call from Sarah Chen, her trusted advisor on the NovaTech board. "Evelyn, I thought you should know," she said without preamble. "James Wilson is orchestrating a vote of no confidence. He's arguing that your handling of the Zenith situation demonstrates poor judgment and a willingness to prioritize personal grievances over shareholder interests." Evelyn sighed, unsurprised but disappointed. "How many board members has he swayed?" 3 out of 7, including himself," Sarah replied. "Charles Miller is the crucial vote. He's concerned about the potential financial fallout if Zenith convinces other companies to distance themselves from NovaTech." "And what do you think?" Evelyn asked, valuing her perspective as always. Sarah was quiet for a moment before responding. "I think you're doing exactly what you built NovaTech to do. Using technology to solve problems while ensuring it doesn't create new ones. The board knew your values when they joined. If they're surprised by your stance now, that's on them, not you." After thanking Sarah for the warning, Evelyn checked on her daughters, who had finally fallen asleep in their respective rooms. She stood in the doorway of Maya's room, watching her peaceful expression and remembering the tiny infant who had once fit in the crook of her arm, her small hand wrapped around her finger with surprising strength. She had promised herself then to build a world where her daughters wouldn't face the same prejudices she had. In many ways, she had fallen short, as today's events had starkly illustrated. But perhaps this crisis offered an opportunity to fulfill that promise in a different way, by showing her daughters how to confront injustice with integrity and purpose. With that thought providing some solace, Evelyn finally allowed herself a few hours of rest before the storm that would erupt when their statement went public. Morning arrived with unexpected developments. As the Bennett family prepared to release their statement, David called with crucial news. "You need to see this," he said urgently. "Robert Sterling has just announced his resignation as CEO of Zenith Airlines, effective immediately." Evelyn quickly pulled up the news on her tablet, reading aloud for her daughter's benefit. "Following recent events that have raised concerns about Zenith's commitment to equitable treatment of all passengers, I recognize that new leadership is necessary to rebuild public trust and implement essential reforms." "He's taking the fall," Luna observed. "Is this good or bad for us?" Maya asked, sensing there might be more to the development than met the eye. "It's complicated," Evelyn replied, scanning the rest of the statement. "Zenith's board is framing this as a decisive action to demonstrate accountability. They're also announcing a comprehensive review of all security protocols, along with mandatory bias training for all customer-facing staff." Luna's analytical mind quickly processed the implications. They're trying to minimize the damage by making Sterling the scapegoat. If the problem was just one bad CEO, replacing him solves everything, right? "Exactly," Evelyn confirmed. "It's a classic crisis management strategy. Make a high-profile sacrifice to protect the organization as a whole. But we know the problem is systemic," Maya pointed out. "One resignation doesn't fix the algorithm or change the culture that allowed these practices to continue." Before they could discuss further, Olivia called with additional information that cast a new light on Sterling's resignation. This wasn't voluntary, she revealed. Late last night, a coalition of black and brown pilots and flight attendants at Zenith threatened to resign en masse if significant changes weren't made immediately. They leveraged their collective influence to force the board's hand. This revelation added a new layer to their understanding of the situation. It wasn't solely external pressure driving change, but internal advocates who had seized the moment to demand accountability. That changes our approach, Evelyn decided. We need to acknowledge their courage and ensure our statement supports their efforts rather than undermining them. They quickly revised their planned statement, shifting from a confrontational stance to one that emphasized collaboration with those within Zenith who were pushing for change. The twins' account of their experience remained unchanged, but the accompanying commentary now focused on systemic solutions rather than individual culpability. As they finalized the new version, Evelyn received a call from Charles Miller, the NovaTech board chairman, whose vote would determine the outcome of the no-confidence motion. "Evelyn, I've been following these developments closely," Charles began, his tone carefully neutral. "The board meeting starts in an hour. Before we proceed, I'd like to understand your ultimate goal here. What does success look like in this situation with Zenith?" It was a fair question, and Evelyn appreciated Charles's directness. "Success isn't about punishing Zenith or exploiting this for NovaTech's gain," she replied. "It's about using this moment to establish industry-wide standards for ethical AI and security systems. If Zenith commits to implementing those standards, that's a victory, not just for my daughters, but for everyone who has been unfairly targeted." Charles was quiet for a moment, considering. "And the partnership we've been discussing with them for months. That depends entirely on their commitment to genuine change," Evelyn said firmly. "I won't compromise on ethical implementation, regardless of the financial implications. If the board disagrees with that position, they should state so explicitly." After ending the call, Evelyn turned to her daughters. "The board meeting could be challenging. I'd like you both to join me if you're willing. The board should hear directly from you about what happened." The twins agreed without hesitation, and soon they were entering NovaTech's impressive headquarters for the first time. As they rode the elevator to the executive floor, Maya studied the building's modern architecture with an artist's eye, while Luna absorbed every detail of her mother's professional world. David greeted them at the elevator, his warm welcome for the twins contrasting with the tension evident in his posture. "They're all assembled," he informed Evelyn quietly. "James arrived early and has been speaking with each member individually, lobbying for support." Evelyn nodded, unsurprised. "Thank you for the heads up." As they approached the boardroom, David handed each twin a visitor badge. "Make them listen," he whispered with a conspiratorial smile. "Your mother built this company by standing firm when it mattered most." The boardroom fell silent as Evelyn entered with her daughters. James Wilson's expression of surprise quickly shifted into one of calculated charm. "Ah, the young ladies at the center of our current predicament," he said, rising to greet them. "How lovely to finally meet you, though I must say, this meeting is typically reserved for board members and executives." "My daughters are here at my invitation," Evelyn stated firmly. As the individuals directly impacted by Zenith's practices, their perspective is invaluable to these discussions. Charles Miller intervened smoothly. "We're delighted to have you both join us. Please have a seat. We were just discussing the implications of this morning's announcements from Zenith." As the twins settled into chairs behind their mother, James wasted no time launching his critique. "Let's be clear about what's at stake here. Evelyn's personal crusade against Zenith has potentially cost us a $25 million partnership, damaged relationships with other potential clients, and created unnecessary volatility in our stock price." Sarah Chen countered immediately. "That's an extraordinary mischaracterization, James. What we're witnessing is our CEO upholding the very principles this company was founded upon, developing technology that serves humanity equitably." "Noble sentiments," James conceded with thinly veiled condescension. "But we have a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders." Evelyn's handling of this situation suggests she's allowing personal matters to override business judgment. Evelyn remained remarkably calm as she addressed the board. "I've invited my daughters here today, so you can hear directly from them what occurred. Not as the CEO's children, but as two young women who experienced firsthand the consequences of algorithmic bias. Precisely the issue I've been raising concerns about with our own systems." She turned to the twins. "Luna, Maya, would you share your experience with the board?" The twins exchanged a glance before Luna began, her voice clear and measured as she recounted the events at Logan Airport. She spoke with the precision of a lawyer presenting evidence, outlining each interaction with the gate agent and security officer, noting timestamps and specific statements. When she finished, Maya added her perspective, emphasizing the emotional impact and the stark contrast in treatment before and after their mother's name was mentioned. "We've traveled frequently our entire lives," she concluded. "We know the difference between standard security procedures and what happened that day. The difference wasn't our behavior or documentation. It was how we were perceived because of how we look." A contemplative silence followed their testimony. Finally, Charles spoke. "Thank you both for sharing that difficult experience with us. Evelyn, how do you see this situation affecting NovaTech's relationship with Zenith moving forward?" Before Evelyn could respond, James interjected. "The question isn't about Zenith specifically, but about Evelyn's judgment. She's allowing a personal incident to dictate corporate strategy." "With respect, Mr. Wilson," Luna said, her voice measured but firm. "There's nothing personal about algorithmic bias. It's a documented technical problem that affects millions of people. The only thing personal about our situation was that we had access to someone with the influence to demand accountability." James blinked, momentarily taken aback by the teenage girl's articulate challenge. Nevertheless, this approach has potentially damaged valuable business relationships. "What my daughter is trying to explain, James," Evelyn interrupted, "is that this isn't about a single incident or a single company. The security system we've been developing addresses the exact weaknesses exhibited in Zenith's current algorithm. This isn't a distraction from our business. It's directly related to our core mission and competency." The discussion continued for nearly an hour, with the board divided on whether Evelyn's approach constituted principled leadership or reckless activism. Throughout, the twins remained poised, occasionally contributing insights that belied their years. Finally, Charles Miller called for the vote. "The motion before us is a vote of no confidence in Evelyn Reed's leadership regarding the Zenith situation. Those in favor." James Wilson's hand rose immediately, followed by two others. Evelyn watched impassively, her expression revealing nothing of her internal thoughts. "Those opposed?" Sarah's hand shot up along with three others. With the board split 4-3, all eyes turned to Charles, whose vote would decide the outcome. Charles met Evelyn's gaze directly. "When you founded this company, Evelyn, you spoke about technology with conscience, innovations that would open doors rather than close them. I joined this board because I believed in that vision." He paused, looking thoughtfully at the twins before continuing. "Today, I've seen that vision embodied not just in your leadership, but in the remarkable young women you've raised. Their courage in sharing their experience has reminded me why ethical considerations must never be sacrificed for expediency or profit." James's expression darkened as he sensed which way the vote was turning. "My vote is against the motion," Charles declared. "And furthermore, I move that the board formally endorse Evelyn's proposed Ethical AI Standards Initiative, positioning NovaTech as a leader in addressing algorithmic bias across the industry." The tension in the room visibly dissipated as Sarah quickly seconded the motion. Even one of James's initial allies shifted their support, recognizing that the tide had turned both within the boardroom and in the court of public opinion. As the meeting adjourned, Charles approached the twins. "Young ladies, if you ever decide to enter the corporate world, NovaTech would be fortunate to have minds and hearts like yours among its leadership." Outside the boardroom, David waited with news that would further vindicate their stance. "Evelyn, Zenith's interim CEO has requested an urgent meeting. They're proposing a joint initiative to develop industry-wide standards for ethical AI and security screening, with NovaTech taking the lead on implementation. Evelyn smiled at her daughters. It seems we've come full circle. What started as discrimination might end as transformation, not just for one airline, but potentially for the entire industry. Not quite full circle, Maya corrected gently. Change never happens in perfect circles. It's more like a spiral, bringing us back to similar challenges, but hopefully at a higher level each time. Evelyn regarded her artistic, philosophical daughter with a mixture of surprise and admiration. When did you get so wise? She's always been the wise one, Luna stated matter-of-factly. I'm just the loud one. The family shared a moment of laughter, genuine and warm, before turning their attention to the next steps in their unexpected journey. What had begun as a weekend visit had transformed into a catalyst for change, their personal experience becoming a powerful lever for systemic reform. Later that evening, as news broke of Zenith's proposal for a joint ethics initiative with NovaTech, social media erupted with responses ranging from cynical dismissal to cautious optimism. The Bennett twins, with their mother's blessing, released their own statement, not as victims seeking sympathy, but as advocates demanding accountability. Real change requires more than corporate statements and diversity training, they wrote. It requires fundamental shifts in how we design, implement, and evaluate the technologies that increasingly govern our lives. We're committed to being part of that shift, turning an individual injustice into a movement for collective fairness. Their words resonated far beyond the immediate controversy, touching something universal in the ongoing struggle for equity in an increasingly automated world. As their statement circulated, gaining thousands of shares and comments, Olivia Hayes sent a simple text to Maya. This is how progress happens, not from the top down, but from brave individuals standing their ground and speaking their truth. Your family has changed the trajectory of an entire industry today. Maya showed the message to her mother and sister, all of them recognizing the significance of what they had accomplished together. It wasn't a complete victory. True change would require ongoing vigilance and advocacy. But it was an important beginning. So, Evelyn said, finally broaching the topic they had set aside amid the chaos, about that surprise I planned for your visit. The twins looked at her expectantly, having nearly forgotten the original purpose of their Chicago trip. I've been renovating a loft in River North, she revealed. 3 bedrooms, a studio space for Maya's art, and an office for Luna's coding projects. It's not just for weekends or holidays. It's a home whenever you want it to be. The gesture hit the twins with unexpected emotional force. Their mother wasn't just offering a place to visit. She was creating space for them in her daily life, acknowledging the need for deeper connection than video calls and occasional visits could provide. What about Mom? Luna asked practically, always considering all angles. She knows, Evelyn assured them. We've been discussing it for months. The divorce is moving forward, but we both want you to have stability and connection with both of us. This doesn't replace Seattle. It's an addition, not a subtraction. As the conversation shifted to more personal territory, the Bennett family began the delicate work of redefining their relationships in the wake of both public triumph and private transition. The systems they were challenging extended beyond airlines and security algorithms. They included the very structures of family and identity that shaped their lives. In that hotel suite overlooking a city of architectural marvels, they were laying the foundation for something equally impressive. A family reconfigured but unbroken, connected by bonds stronger than conventional definitions could contain. The chilling ordeal at the SkyLink gate serves as a stark reminder that systemic bias can lurk within the very technologies we entrust for efficiency and security. Despite possessing valid identification and confirmed reservations, the 16-year-old twins were subjected to unwarranted scrutiny, their passage impeded by an algorithm that, as Olivia Hayes' damning evidence revealed, disproportionately flagged passengers of color. This wasn't a mere oversight or a technical glitch. It was the cold, hard manifestation of coded prejudice. a digital reflection of societal biases that can dehumanize and marginalize individuals based on their appearance. The Bennett sisters' experience, tragically echoed by countless others, underscores the urgent need for rigorous ethical oversight in the development and deployment of AI systems, lest we automate inequality and further entrench discriminatory practices under the guise of technological neutrality. The fight for fairness in the age of automation demands constant vigilance and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about the biases we unknowingly build into our creations. Furthermore, the story powerfully illustrates the transformative impact of courage and the responsible wielding of privilege in the face of injustice. Luna and Maya, though initially shaken by their treatment, chose to leverage their mother's influence not for personal gain or retribution, but as a platform to expose a systemic problem. Their bravery in sharing their humiliating experience, coupled with Olivia Hayes' courageous act of whistleblowing and Evelyn Reed's unwavering commitment to ethical principles, ignited a chain reaction that forced a major corporation to confront its deep-seated biases. This narrative champions the idea that silence in the face of injustice is complicity, and that those with the means to amplify marginalized voices have a moral imperative to do so. It's a testament to the power of individuals, from a principled first officer to determined teenagers and a resolute CEO, who dared to challenge the status quo and demand accountability, ultimately paving the way for meaningful change that could ripple across an entire industry. Witnessing Luna and Maya's unsettling encounter and the subsequent fight against SkyLink's biased system, it begs the question, how can we, as individuals and as a society, become more vigilant in identifying and challenging hidden biases within the technologies that increasingly shape our lives, ensuring that innovation serves justice and equality for all, not just a select few? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video if you found it impactful, and subscribe for more stories that spark crucial conversations and inspire meaningful action.